I guess this is the cycle. This is how I see it. I'm not going to put words into his mouth. I'm not going to define it. How I see it is, this is the cycle of how we interact with everything around us. The world, energy, this is the cycle. We assimilate a thought, we build a thought, we put together a thought, we create a thought, we manifest a thought, we tune into a thought, we tune into multiple thoughts, we assimilate them, we put them together, we create. So, like, that's dope.
All right, yeah, let me get to the point. This is a terrible introduction. In my mind, like, the way I talk and the way I see things are so much more elegant than in reality. When it happens, it's like sometimes they just come out really abrupt and not elegant at all.
What are you laughing at?
That's the first thing I'm being honest with myself about is my communication skills aren't where I believe them to be in my mind. In my mind, I think to myself because I talk to myself so much, because I understand my perspective, and even beyond just my perspective, when I'm talking to other people, if they give me a chance, I feel like I will almost over-explain. And I say almost because I do feel like to really get your point across, there's a lot of, the devil's in the details, so you really got to go into the minutia. You really got to go into your perspective, your frame of reference, and all of that. But with that being said, still, I think sometimes, maybe a little bit more often than not, my point doesn't get all the way across, either because the person just lose interest in listening to me talk, or because I lose my track of thought because I've just been rambling, and then I don't really remember exactly how I was planning to piece them all together, so it's very fragmented and fractured. Or, like I said before, the delivery is just completely off. Like, it's completely opposite of how I saw it in my mind. I just say it very abruptly, and it's almost like diarrhea. Like, you just talk way too quick. Like, slow the fuck down, shut up, and really piece together what you want to say. So that's number one. My communication is not as elegant and beautiful and concise and clear as I believe it to be. What's gonna be funny is that whole piece that I just did, watch that shit just be spot on.
Maybe not.
But the point's gonna be that's editing involved, and in real life, you can't really edit yourself like that. The only editing room in real life is your mind, so that's the thing. You got to do the editing beforehand, not afterhand.
You just blew my fucking mind.
Number two. So yesterday I left about 4:30 in the morning to drive about 4.5 hours out of town to do a shoot. And my business partner, he was one of the people with me in the car, and he took the time to just have like a one-on-one, heart-to-heart conversation. And I could tell he thought about it for a while. One, he eased his way into the conversation with something that was kind of more so entertaining, and then it went to things that were actually directly about me. So he kind of got me to drop my defenses versus just going straight in. The other reason I know he really took his time is because this man was bringing up things from like 6 months ago, 7, 8 months ago.
But better late than never.
But anyways, we had this conversation, and I was proud of myself afterwards. One, usually when people talk to other people and it's a conversation where the person is telling the other person about themselves, people tend to have a knee-jerk reaction and put up their guards and try to attack the person who they feel is attacking them. I feel like I did a really good job of not doing that. My man's even said that usually when he's used to people who are very abrupt and frank not being able to take what they dish out, but he didn't get that from me. One of the things that he told me about myself is that I need to really stop and think about what I'm gonna say sometimes, because what I say sometimes comes across, it hits people really harshly, and probably not how I really intended it to hit.
Amen. Tell the truth.
And I was like, that's a fair critique. Like, I've heard that multiple times in my life from multiple people, different ways, whether it's you're arrogant. I know that's kind of a different area, but it stems from how I deliver a lot of my conversation, a lot of my thoughts sometimes.
Master of karate, kung fu, jiu-jitsu.
Listen to how you talk, like people have told me that. You know there are people smarter than you. I mean, it comes in different forms, but either way, I was like, that's fair, that's fair. Other thing he kind of told me about myself was I need people to push me to finish things. And at first, I really didn't like the way that hit because it made it feel like I'm flaky, like I don't follow through. But then I was like, well, shit, why the fuck are you sensitive about it? In the moment, I just kind of went with it. Like in the moment, I was really open, but last night as I laid with the thoughts and even this morning as I was thinking about it, you know, I had like all these feelings about what he was saying. And I think the reason it hit so hard is because there was some truth in it. My biggest critiques about myself are impulse control. Like I could tell myself I'm gonna do one thing, but I could quickly have this impulse, whether it be watch TV, eat food, watch porn. Like, it can quickly throw me off of what I planned to do or what I intended to do in the beginning. Focus. I mean, that directly connects to the impulse control. The reason my focus is always being broken is because I'm so impulsive. I'm always thinking about these impulses. Not always, but more often than not, these impulses pop up and I have to spend time like steering my thoughts away or just actually stopping what I'm doing and feeding into the impulse. And then the other one is consistency. And I would say it definitely, I don't know, I'm not sure if that's more of a cycle or I know it directly connects to the impulse control and whatnot. But I'm not sure. I feel like that's kind of like programming. It's how I grew up. And this isn't me blaming it on like my parents or nothing like that. I'm just saying nature versus nurture.
Come again?
Nurture.
What the fuck?
Nurture? Nature versus nurture? 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 How the fuck do you say that word?
Lie down before you hurt yourself.
Nurture. Nurture?
God, man.
Nurture.
That's correct.
So my environment when I was growing up was, for the majority of my life, or I should say majority of my life, single mom, older sister. I'm the youngest child. I'm the only boy in the house throughout my whole life, point blank, really. My dad was in the house when I was from 1 to 6, left when I was 6. Him and my mom split. And then, weird story, you don't hear this shit too often, or maybe you do, I don't know. He moved back in when I was like in the 10th grade, and him and my mom were together for the rest of the time that I was in high school. Mind-wise, he was there during the formidable years as far as like my mind, I don't know if it's like wave pattern or frequency. I've seen multiple places that during the stages of like 0 to 7, your mind is in like maybe like a theta wave state. Like your mind has different states. Like when you're awake, it's in one state of mind, but when you're in sleep, you have multiple different states like gamma, theta, delta.
What's this guy talking about?
I don't know what the fuck they really mean. From 0 to 7, those are the years that are most important as far as programming, because what happens then is pretty much building your subconscious. And during day-to-day, subconscious life like ends up running the majority of your life. You spend more time operating from a subconscious place than a conscious place. So because of that, 0 to 7, that's pretty much building out or structuring how you're going to function the rest of your life. Of course, 10th grade, where you, like, as a male, that's literally like right around the time where you're like, nah, like, you can't tell me shit. Like, I've already got my mind made up about how I see the world and how it works and whatnot. But either way, I digress. I played a lot of video games. I spent a lot of time by myself. I spent a lot of time running after girls. I spent a lot of time watching TV. So all of these things, of course, were just like constant, like, what's the pleasure hormone? What is it called? And I'm asking y'all like y'all gonna tell me. I hope nothing responds from this fucking camera. Hey, cut, game over. All right, I was trying to sound smart for a second by using a big word that I clearly don't remember at the time. But anyways, when you do something pleasurable, your mind releases certain chemicals. And of course, those are addictive. So throughout my childhood years, literally most of what my mind spent doing was releasing these feel-good chemicals, because that's what I was constantly trying to do. I was either playing video games. If I wasn't doing that, I was chasing girls. If I wasn't doing that, I was actually fucking girls. If I wasn't doing that, I was watching movies or outside playing. Everything was, hey, how can I get some type of pleasure? If this isn't giving me pleasure, then this is gonna give me pleasure. So it was a constant jumping from one thing to the other, to the other, to the other, to the other, always searching for different types of pleasure. And I look at my life right now, and while I'm doing well, I wanna do better. And I have to like really dissect, like, all right, what's not properly working? What are the weakest links? What can I change to make myself most efficient? And part of that process is just knowing yourself, knowing how you operate. And so now, yeah, I've put it all together. Like, I couldn't be mad at my mans for like the critique, because even though I know my personal growth and my journey as far as what I have accomplished and all the things I have followed through on, from his perspective, the amount that I talk about what I'm going to do and what I'm going to create, and then what he sees on the other end, he's like, bro, I'm not seeing all these good ideas that you actually have. Like, you're not following through. So it's like, I wanted to be mad at my mans, but I couldn't, because, bruh, like, if I'm being real, if I'm being honest with myself, there is something there. The third thing he told me about myself was that maybe I didn't really care about this business, or it seemed like I didn't care about the business because I have a full-time corporate job doing what I love. And now because of that, I'm doing my own thing. Like, between that corporate job and then the other just personal things that I create on the side, outside of the business with my partner, doing media, digital media content, he felt like all of that was superseding that.
That's heavy, bro.
In the moment, I reassured him that I do care about the business. And he, like, outside of me just doing certain things that weren't considered professional, and it was like you would only do something like that out of lack of caring for what you're doing. And then me actually saying often that I don't care about a particular process, or I don't care. And me just using that phrase a lot of times to, like, you know, just shrug off something that I could let bother me, but I'm telling myself out loud that I don't care so I could just get past it. I didn't realize, like, to other people, they see something else. I didn't even think about it because it's just something I do subconsciously. So thinking about it, and I didn't tell him this in the moment, I just reassured him or whatever. And I was like, you know, that's fair. Like, you know, that's not what I meant. But another one of my things is I get complacent. Again, because when I was a kid, I was always looking for what was comfortable. That comfort was pleasure. If I get comfortable, I'm kind of good. Like, all right, I'm comfortable. I'm not really motivated. I don't have that fire underneath my ass to get done what I need to do. It's as simple as that.
What's so damn funny?
It's as simple as that. You know, niggas living in a castle aren't as hungry as people living out on the side of the street. It's as simple as that. So yeah, it was a fair assessment. And regardless of why I'm like that, the only thing that matters is, in order for me to obtain the things that I want to obtain and do the things I want to do, I only have three options. I only have three options. You know, you look at cells through a microscope and they only do one of three things. They either move towards something, they move away from something, or they stay stagnant. They don't do anything at all. And he was like, so if you bring that up to a bigger level, as far as us as humans with choices, that means in a moment you always have three options. You can move towards something, away from something, or do nothing at all. And thinking about that way, thinking about life that way, thinking about incorporating that perspective into my journey of self-growth. When people say things that can like trigger you in ways you don't even understand why you triggered, you just emotionally feel a certain type of way. If you can, if you have it in you, do your best to pull yourself above and out of that situation in the moment, and do your best to try to hear that person out and talk to that person in a manner to where they feel comfortable opening up and giving you their honest opinion of you. Because that's the information that you need. That's the information that people who don't care about you, they're not gonna tell you. People who don't give a fuck about you, they're not gonna tell you about yourself. They're just not gonna fuck with you. It's as simple as that.
That's right!
It's only people who care about you who are gonna actually take the time to be in those uncomfortable situations, to have those uncomfortable conversations. So big ups to my man for, actually taking the time out to do that, regardless of. And this is the other funny part. With all that good shit, there is still our parts of me where I'm like, nah, nigga, like you don't fully understand, or nah, bro, like you got shit about yourself too. But it's like, that shit would be mad petty for me to try to now come back with those things, because clearly whatever I resolve with myself, or not even resolve, however I see him, if I didn't say anything about that stuff before that moment, then it's like, bro, either you didn't care enough, or I mean, clearly this conversation needed to happen, because clearly there's something going on with both of you point blank. But for me, the things that kind of irked me about him, I have written them off as, that's you. I've come to realize that it's really hard to exist and be around people who want to mold you and shape you to be exactly how they need you to be, for them to be comfortable 24/7. And I don't want to be that person. Still, of course, you're always not going to like 100% of what another person does. I mean, that even goes for the wife.
I love you so much, though.
But still, with that said, a part of just love point blank is that acceptance. I would say that's probably the biggest part. It's your choice to accept how something is, or someone is. And so just from like a brotherly,
You take your time.
just from a brotherly love standpoint,
He's a real funny guy.
I've told myself that I accept that. Like, those moments that irk me, they're not serious enough, they're not big enough for me to even really address it. So it would be mad petty of me to try to, like, in that moment, use that as a defense tactic to now make it feel like we're on level ground. Like, oh, I have things about myself and you have things about yourself too. And I see a lot of people do that shit. A lot of people do that shit. A lot of women do that shit. Man, women are the masters. The masters. Undefeated champions. Of telling you about yourself in moments when you are trying to hold them accountable and have these types of uncomfortable conversations. But again, we love women. That is what it is. It's at this point, it's damn near what we kind of love about you. Hey, you keep us sharp on our toes. So yeah, I think those are the three big things. And I think something that really helps in these situations: assimilation, digestion, utilization, elimination. Assimilating process is us putting together thoughts. I have this thought, I have that thought. All right, let me think about these thoughts. I'm thinking about the thoughts. That's the digestion. Like, damn, all right, now that I have these thoughts, like, let me think how these thoughts work with each other. Now the utilization would be, now let me create. And of course, the elimination is always, what goes up must come down. Whatever you create, one day, that shit will be gone. But it gives room for somebody else to assimilate and do the whole cycle. And that, I mean, a lot of the times, like, these cycles are on different scales. So you have a cycle every second, you have cycles milliseconds, you have cycles over years, you have cycles over days, over weeks, months. You know, like you get it?
I don't think I do.
But anyways, the last little gem is give yourself time with new information to properly digest and utilize it. So this conversation that my man's took the time out of his day to really have and do his best to communicate his thoughts so we can keep moving forward in a more efficient manner. I'd be doing myself a disservice if I cheated myself at any point of this cycle. So that conversation, the assimilation was everything leading up to the conversation. It was me saying these things on set to him that he perceived a certain way. It was me doing things in our business or in our process of creation, or me doing a thing. Let me not say things. It was one thing, but it was a big thing. And not only was it a big thing, it was a big thing that I've done multiple times by accident, but still, it's because I'm being sloppy. And so all these things that are like moments that are like check marks in his mind, moments where he's like, what the fuck is that? Or moments where he feels some type of way, or he gets triggered, or he sees me in a certain type of light that he's not really comfortable with. Those are all the assimilation moments. As well as the conversation. Because the conversation is creating the communication, it's creating the connection between how he perceives me and me getting the information and making sure that I see what he sees and that it's correct and we get it all aligned. Like, that's all assimilating that bridge between him and me, the conversation.
That made no sense.
Now, the digestion happens as well during the conversation because as we're assimilating, I'm digesting so we can course correct and go the proper routes, and I can figure out, okay, where are we? Let me make sure we're going the right route.
I don't think he even knows where he is.
Oh, no, you're over there? Oh, I'm over here. Bet, let's get aligned. All right, let's keep moving forward. So we're constantly digesting as we're assimilating, and the digestion goes beyond the assimilation process as well. So last night when I'm thinking about it, this morning when I'm thinking about it, that's all the digestion. That's me taking time to actually take all of that in and figure it out. So assimilation starts before, goes into digestion, they overlap, and then digestion keeps going on after assimilation stops.
It's a complex chart catalog.
Then the utilization. Now that I'm doing this, I guess there's overlap because you're utilizing as well. Not only are you assimilating and here we go again.
Maybe you learn how humans actually talk.
Not only are you assimilating and digesting, but you're also utilizing. You're utilizing the conversation that you're assimilating. So he says something to me. He assimilates a sentence. It creates a bridge from him to me. I digest that energy. I now am using that energy to assimilate thoughts. I'm gonna utilize that now to assimilate another bridge back to him. So assimilation, digestion, and utilization all have an overlap. Now, I'm not really sure where the elimination part is. Clearly, there's an eliminating of the conversation. The conversation comes to an end, so you're eliminating that. But again, after the conversation happens, you're still replaying these things in your mind. You're still going through the emotions or feeling things. Like, the process isn't over. You're not having the conversation, so you haven't eliminating anything. I mean, there's people who've been verbally abused, and 20 years after, like, they still haven't resolved those issues. So they haven't eliminated the effect of that energy that was transferred from one person to them. So I guess right now, what I'm gonna say, this is completely resolved because I don't have anything else to say.
Honestly, I don't know who the fuck to trust. Is she my friend or my foe? I'm a extra draw. Yeah, she give me that.